Hey rail fans, Train Guy here again, and welcome to part 7, I think it is we're on now, of the Round the World tour of all the Train Sim World 2 routes. And breaking the rule about one run per route today after the technical disaster that struck at the end of the last stream. So we're going to do the westbound out of Hauptstrecke Munchen-Augsburg. This will be a westbound ICE where these trains would be able to connect us up to the Main-Spessart band. You would get one of these as far as Würzburg, swap to a Regio, and that would take you to Gmunden, and then we'll join the Main-Spessart band for the westbound there. So let's just get this set up nice and quickly. Hello Deps, good to see you mate. Taking a do-over on Munich after the slight technical hitch last time. Let's change this up a little bit. We'll not make it. We'll take a little bit of that off, and we'll take a wee bit. We'll just take this down so we hopefully don't get like a blanket of fog the whole way. And I think the Berlin trains certainly go through. Would certainly go through Würzburg. Let's have a look. We'll take the 8:22 morning service to Berlin. Non-stop. Let's see. Does that one stop? No. So these are both non-stop services. That's fine. That works for me. Okay. What I've found with Train Sim World 2, in theory turning your weather effects up should make it struggle more. In practice what I've found is it actually reduces the distance it has to draw things in at. So you sometimes get less popping and stuff like that. Depending on what else is going on around you, it's not the killer it used to be. Come on. So many loading screens. I like how they do use user screenshots for some of them, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, I know about using fog, but quite often what used to happen, what traditionally happens, it's stuff like the rain and the snow effects and all the when you start trying to make it actually look like weather rather than just that horrible grey mist. You know, you start trying sunlight through clouds and things like that, and it actually becomes a horrible mess. Or that used to be the case with these things. So, westbound as far as Augsburg, non-stop. So it's just a standard 8-car, 200-meter long train. There are some twin sets that you see on the line, but I've not found them in the schedules yet. So I've not been able to actually drive those. Hi Tommy, good to see you. Happy New Year, mate. Let's just get this underway, I guess. So we'll give ourselves a little bit of light, and I want to get the doors open. I just had a total mind freeze when I started this up. I couldn't remember what I was supposed to start pressing. Oops. So 550 to turn your lights on in the coaches. Upper display button twice. Enter data entry mode. Find the one you want. Enter and reset that screen. We'll just do the AFB while we're here.
AFB. AFB. AFB.
And let's have a think. Under here. So that's the safeties in there. That's the CIFA, PZB, LZB. Those are all now armed, and because it's kind of not totally light outside, you would probably opaque the window up just to stop light from the cab coming in, light from the passenger compartments coming in. I think we want to make that wiper a bit faster. Some high beams those, eh? I have a feeling I've forgotten to do something. Can't be that important. Oh yeah, the sound effects on the IC are absolutely fantastic. All the sound effects are actually really good, I think, on the new stuff. You can kind of hear it rumbling over the junctions and stuff in a way that you don't with the old TSW1 stuff anymore. I really hope they go back and fix a lot of that, because it is such a striking difference when you play on the newer stuff sometimes. Actually, considering we've got snow, we've got fairly good visibility. I think it's because I just turned that slider down a tiny bit to get rid of the fog. Okay, so pick it up a little bit now. We do the first chunk of this. We're manually driving the train, and then it's LZB most of the way to Augsburg. The entry to Augsburg can actually be quite interesting, because you're being told to slow down by temporary speed limits, and you're having to kind of almost override what the LZB's doing at one point, I've found. There's a lot going on potentially just at the the handover. It's not quite as tricky as the entry to Cologne. That can be a real handful the first couple of times you do it. So built up some speed now. We'll put traction back in. See if we can get the power without the wheel slip. What I have found with the old Train Sim World 1 sounds though is if anybody's not discovered it themselves yet, most of the time if you open a window in the cab you actually hear most of the sounds again. It uses the outside sounds for a lot of stuff, but it actually for most trains it will help a bit. So I'm not expecting any signals to be anything other than clear for me, but just always be alert when it's, especially when it's like this, just because it's a tough old train to get slowed down at the best of times if you need to do it in a hurry. Trying to do it in these conditions, that could get very interesting very quickly. So this is actually quite a nice time of the morning to see some traffic out on the route. There is quite a lot going on down at this end. If you pick your moment, it would be so much better if we got the layers, because very soon we're going to be past most of the traffic. That noise as it sort of rumbles over the points there. Still little things. So much stutter along this route though, it's a pity. Looking forward to seeing it run on next gen though. Well, I've seen it run on next gen, I'm looking forward to playing it on next gen. So 200 km/h zone coming up, that's obviously where we're going to switch over to LZB. And thereabouts. Just listen for the buzzer, watch for the signboard. Signboard can be a bit tricky to see sometimes in really heavy weather, but should hear the buzz. Here we go. So all you do there is you just put your AFB lever all the way forward and leave it. Right, so there's not much to do now for a wee while except keep an eye out for SIFA coming on, really. Pardon me. One more speed increase coming up, but of course LZB's in charge, so it'll just take care of that all by itself. It's funny, after playing with TGV for a while, this now feels what felt like such a complicated train now in so many ways feels like such a hands-off experience. Because even with the speed select mode on the TGV, you're still in charge of it. You've still got to do all the bits yourself, especially when you're going up and down those roller coaster ramps. It's not to say I don't like the ICE anymore, but it's funny how it so quickly went from being the star of the show to second fiddle. Well, for me anyway. I still love driving it, but I would love to see some more TGV lines made, because that is such a fun train to drive, or extend that line out beyond Avignon. Bloody love that machine. So the stations we go past now, I think we're beyond, or we're getting out beyond where we're going to see any S-Bahn stuff, if any at all. And these would be populated obviously by the additional layers we don't have yet. I'm sure they did say it in one of the live streams. They pretty much think they know how to do it. It's just getting it out now. But we'll see. I think they're streaming tonight. Oh, it's a roadmap stream tonight as well. If you don't know about those, and you don't already watch them, the roadmap streams that Dovetail Games do, They're a mixture of useless and very useful. It's the only way I can really describe them, but they are worth watching because for all the flack they get, they still answer more questions about their product than 99% of developers out there that I've ever come across in 30 odd years of gaming. So we've put the LZB on, I think, at around 45k out from Augsburg, so we've done almost 20k already just in those few minutes. Agricultural silos down there on the right. Anybody wondering what those big bunkers are for? They use them for making silage and stuff. Solar panel farm. Looks awesome in the daylight. Getting an awful lot of Zifas, it feels like. You know, I've still never worked out exactly what the activation condition is for a Zifa, because sometimes it seems to go off an awful lot, other times it seems to leave you alone for a while. And, one of these days I'll look into that. Maybe. Kilometres to go. Thereabouts, that is the straight line distance. It's probably a little longer track mileage, or kilometerage, whatever you want. Okay, it was LZB. So it's detected a 150 zone away up ahead. I can't quite read the numbers on that screen. What way do I want to go? It's still over 10k out. It's still at 9.999 on the display there. Not that I use that display very often, to be honest with you. The one on the heads-up display is perfectly fine. Yeah, I've read the every 30 seconds thing. It just sometimes feels like it's a lot longer, and sometimes it feels like it's a lot less, but that's probably just me. already got that distance down now to almost down to 10 kilometres, 12, but it'll be at 10 before you know it. Still thundering along here at a good old speed. About 130-ish miles an hour, I think we're doing. 135-ish. Nah, it's not connected to the. It's not like the DSD or the alerter where it's connected to the controls. It's completely independent. I do know that much. I have wondered occasionally if there is trackside equipment that can set it off to sort of double it as an AWS. It's, like I say, it's one of these things I've noticed. I've noticed it, but I've never bothered that much about it to go digging. So we're now in the braking curve, and we're also getting fairly close. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the AFB screen over here. Ready with my cursor because it all gets a bit hectic. Only I can't remember exactly where. Just that it happens along here. So acknowledge the CFA. What you can do at this point is you can pull the AFB handle down to around 200 or so, and that just means when we go to do the transition to manual control, we've got a little bit less distance to move that lever. That's all that is. As long as you don't set it to any lower than the speed you're currently doing, or that you think you're likely to need to do, you're all good. And I need to remember not to go through the AFB process until we've cleared the end. I don't know what the name officially for it is, but what I've now begun calling the endo zone. You know, the period of time where you've got the endo light turned on your HUD here. For the duration, you have to wait till that's cleared before you can switch back. So we've got a reduction to 90 coming up in our future, which is going to be communicated by the signals. Driver would probably already be aware of it with this wee screen thing down here that doesn't get used, but we're fine. We've got 6 minutes in hand and we've only got 3.5 kilometres to do. So you might even find, you probably find in reality we wouldn't be coming in at full chat like this at this time of the morning. We'd be coming in under signals. So there's the end light come on, it's release, and just wait for that to go out. Get rid of the power just now. Right, so at that point we can switch off the AFB, close, make sure your throttle's off, AFB to where you want it, just keep half an eye open for CFA coming on, turn the AFB back on and just give the handle a little nudge to make sure that the blue line on your HUD there moves. That just confirms that it is in the correct mode. And then straight away we've got PZB for a signal, so let's just get that speed right on down there. watching for the signals ahead, because that was a caution. That was a prepared to stop. So I'm just going to bring it down to 40. We've got 4 minutes to do 5,500 meters, so we're unlikely to be late at this point. So that's what I mean there about everything just suddenly kind of happens in a hurry on the way into Aachen, to Augsburg. Dude's mental, he's in a t-shirt.
Zifa.
Nice. Right, we'll just wait for the passengers to unload. That were fun. I always enjoy a high-speed train. Doesn't really matter if it's a knackedy old diesel thing from the 1970s or a 300 plus kilometre per hour flying machine from today. They're all good fun. Must be quiet cars, these. Germany's fastest something or other. I'm not quite sure what that last word is. Okay. So that's as far as we can unfortunately go on this line. But what you could do on one of these trains is you could, as I said before, you could get off at Würzburg, and from there you could connect directly to our next station that we're going to, which is Gemünden am Main. I believe is the full name I read on Google's. And when we get to Aschaffenburg, we will basically have gone from one corner of Bavaria to the other, and that just sets us up nicely for next time, which will be a more or less a loop all the way around the Rhine-Ruhr region, taking in 3 different trains on 3 different lines, and that'll set us up just nicely for the last couple of legs. So let's back out of here. And we want that one. And we want that one. Timetable. I think we'll keep it on winter for a wee change. We'll go back to summer when we get on to the quicker stuff. And once we get into the Rhineland, we'll go back to nicer weather. But I really fancy doing this one in the not so nice weather. And we're going to do this in one of the cab cars. I think I did actually write down which one specifically I should be using. C86 developed after drivers fell asleep. Yeah, I've noticed that if you hold the CIFA button down, it will do that. It will put the brakes on anyway if you keep it held. Um, that's the same reason that the driver safety device on British trains is now a button on the desk you have to press. It used to be a dead man's pedal on the footwell of the cab, and the drivers used to put toolboxes down and stuff on top of them because you would get cramp in your leg otherwise. So we'll move on a bit further in the day. You'd be looking at about 2.5. I think between now was it 3 to 4 hours or was it 2.5 to 3.5 hours, something like that. So you'd be looking at leaving Gmunden sometime in the around midday, early afternoon if you'd connected from the train we'd been on. So we want an Aschaffenburg. We'll keep it daytime so there's not too many visibility issues. I think it's going to be interesting enough going down. Oh shite! I'm going down the Spessart ramp, haven't I? Right, this will be good. Did not think that one through. Because we all saw how well my freight train efforts went in the snow going downhill last time. Oh, we'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Actually, I could end up... Oof. Kind of warm, actually, I just realised. Let me just remove some clothing. There we go. Every 800 metres might be the doohickety. That might be why. Okay, so westbound local stopping. So it usually takes about an hour in normal conditions. I haven't driven a cab car in a long time. I don't think I've driven one on snow at all, actually. Now I think about it. I think I did my dry run through here on a nice sunny day, if I'm being honest. Right, it'll be okay. I'm just having a quick think all the different things I need to do at the start here because I've not set one of these up for a couple of weeks. Right, let's just jump on in. This one doesn't have a key, does it? No. So unlock the doors, get the train line power started and put the coach lights on for the passengers. Destination power on, and then destination service, we'll set that automatically. We'll turn the headlights up because the weather's crap. Instrument lights on, that should be off. And usually close these as well. There's your headlight setting. Make sure CIFA's on and PZB's down here. It'll automatically set to the correct mode. Your wiper controls down here. And if everything's worked properly, everything should be lit up. There should be lights in the cab. Oh, this is going to be great fun. Look how horrible this weather is. So if you're a fan of click spots and stuff and you want to close the doors normally, you rotate this switch to lock all. and then you flick that switch. I think you pull it, no, you push it away from you to close, pull it towards you to open. And then you need to remember to rotate that to left, right, or both before you arrive at the station at the other end. This does have a key, I just remembered at the last second. Oh, I know what I forgot to do as well. I'm just going to... I know you wouldn't open this in the winter, but I'm doing it just so we get sound. I like the sound. And just keeping an eye on the speed because we are under PZB. So you can at least hear the sort of the undercarriage noise and stuff now. Right, PZB is released, so we can pick it up a little bit. I actually prefer to keep, even during the daytime, I like to keep these screens on nighttime mode. They're easier to read, I find. So I'm not getting a wheel speed indication, the usual wee red gates around the speed there, but I can tell from the blue line going mental, and the dial on the desk going mental when I turn the power right up. There you go. It's slipping. That's because the wheels are spinning up. So it might have to be, could be quite tricky keeping this on time. It never occurred to me, of course, getting pushed is not as, yeah, that's going to give you a whole different set of traction problems, right enough. I'm going to be much more cautious with the brakes than I would probably be on a nice day as well. Good job, I've already got the medal for this one. But then, in reality, I mean, railways do slow down a bit when the weather turns crap. Just because the Train Sim World AI can drive at full tilt in bad weather, that's not necessarily how it actually goes. Especially if there's any danger of the snow being near the railheads. That's when you start getting, you know, temporary 5 or 10 mile an hour limits going up. Oh, I meant to do that with the click switches just to sort of run through how those work. In case anybody's not found those. I found those confusing as hell, the door switches on this thing at first. All I've done there, you can see the switch has been rotated round. The thing will do it automatically if you use the menu. It just rotates it to the one you want open and then opens the door for you. The worst thing you can do is, if you are using the switches, is forget to rotate that switch and then go to do the button, because they're on opposite sides of the cabin. The cursor is not the most responsive. So long out, look at all these people in just t-shirts and stuff. That's ridiculous, man. could at least put like models in with jackets and stuff for the winter. I mean, they get different clothing in the 1980s. They could surely get different clothes in winter time. Can't remember if this is the cab car with the annoying safety interlock or not. Nope, this isn't the one with the annoying safety interlock. Hey Atomic Terry, welcome to the stream. We've done most of the English stuff in the first parts. I think parts 1 and 2, 3 were all the English stuff. Just the way that I wanted to kind of do them in as joined up a fashion as I could. So we started with the English things, made our way over to America, and we're doing the European leg now. Although the plan is we are getting the high-speed southeast at some point, I think in the next couple of weeks. So the plan is to finish this series off with a run into London on the high speed, and then maybe a run back out on the slower train, because of course the whole thing started on the Isle of Wight, so trying to join them all up kind of thing. Right, so we've got a fair old run to the next station now, and we're going downhill, so I'm still getting slippage when I put the power down too much. Again, this is a reason to have the HUD on, because I don't know that you can always tell from the gauge on the desk what's happening, whereas the one on the HUD makes it a bit clearer. Oh, cool, man. I hope you enjoy them. Yeah, high speed looked really good. I cannot wait for it. And I was incredibly relieved to find that the high speed safety system is TVM, because we already got that one. I don't have to learn something completely new by the looks of it. Can't even see the front of the train from... Ah, now if those screens go dead, you can bring them back by flicking to a camera view to the monitor and back, if you have the ability to do so. You can select screen 1 from the main menu, then back to the driver's screen. That will bring them all back. They will come back by themselves eventually. It's just it's another unfortunate little bug that seems to be a thing. Glasgow to Edinburgh would be really good. I mean, it's a perfect length. What I'd love to see is the East Coast Main Line, but going north out of Edinburgh, over the bridge up towards. You know, you could go as far as Dundee, or even a bit further north, and it wouldn't be, you know, any longer than the longest routes they've done. But you'd get some really cool stuff to see on the way. It's a beautiful line up there. Still, I'm sure they'll get round to us eventually, man. I've got a feeling Fife Circle might make its way over, because that was being so popular on Train Sim World 1. That'll be the first one we see. Right, going to try full chat now, because generally speaking, the faster you're going, the more power you can actually give it in these conditions. But there we go, so it's more or less settled down now. So I'm having to really pay attention for trackside signage coming up for speed limits and stuff, because I can't remember exactly where it all is. I'm beginning to think driving a route I haven't really driven very much for a while in the snow was a bit of a daft idea. Right, so I just passed one speed board there. Honestly, I could live with or without the HST on a ScotRail route, because it never goes above 90 mile an hour anyway. I'd prefer to see them put something new in that we've not already got, if you know what I mean. Because there's a fair bit of other stuff runs up and down there as well. Besides, the ScotRail ones, they're only 4 or 5 cars, and the engines have been thoroughly detuned on them as well. So they're, I would say the ones we've got up here, they're certainly class 43s, but they're not HSTs anymore by any stretch of the imagination. And they break down all the time anyway. I'm afraid to say it. I mean, it's one of my favourite trains of all time, but no, they should have been gone 10 years ago. And I say that with a very deep and fond attachment to them. First train set I ever got was a 125. The first train I remember being on was a 125. First, you know, it's yeah, they're like, you know, those replica Ferraris you buy that look absolutely awesome, and you'll see some poser at a petrol station with one, and you'll be, oh, that looks amazing, mate, and then you get them to open the hood up, and it's like a fucking Honda Civic engine or something in it. That's basically what they've done to them. Maybe not quite as extreme as that, but that's sort of how I kind of look at them now. It's nice to see them still pootling about, but it's also kind of sad in a way, because they're yeah. Right, so just double check that our throttle's off. So we're keeping more or less to time. So give it half power where I would normally slam it all the way up, just to let's get underway. Just double check your PZB gauge. Make sure you've not got anything going on, even if you're sure you didn't have PZB when you came in. It's so easy to forget that it was on, as I've demonstrated many times. I think all the passenger services are pretty much all MUs now of one form or other. Loads of DMUs, and there are still some parts of the rural network up in the north where they believe it or not, they still use tokens on stretches of the line, single track line. They've got the old token exchange signalling system still operating up there somewhere. But I don't think locomotive pulled trains are really a thing, other than the Caledonian Sleeper and stuff like that. Oh, we've got 100 coming up just round this bend, so probably want to slow this down a wee bit. I don't think there's any fatal booby traps coming up on the way to Partenstein in terms of PZB or things. Emphasis on think though. I'm honestly not sure what they're using for the Cali Sleeper anymore. It's been so long since I've been in Waverley Station. I used to pass it, in fact I used to use it every morning, and then latterly I would pass it on a bus and you could see everything that was there. I'm going to be honest, my knowledge of the different classes and stuff like that beyond what's in this game is a bit patchy. I only rediscovered trains relatively recently. Although that reminds me, one did actually. There was an incident with the Cali. It must have been last year, year before now even. Something went wrong when it was coming into the station. It overshot by a few hundred yards, which, if you know what's just beyond Waverley Station, eastbound, makes your toes curl to think about what could have happened. I wonder if they ever did find out what had happened to that and publish the findings. I'll need to go back and look. That'll be something for me to do when I remember. Because all I remember them saying in the papers at the time was there was a problem with the braking system of some sort. Or the brakes had failed, but that sounds a bit... Really? On the whole train? The brakes failed, or the operator of the brakes failed? Or more likely, several vital bits of equipment all failed at the same time. It's safe to say that the signalling network around Edinburgh is not always at the top of Network Rail's list of things to do. It's notoriously unreliable. It's basically a daily occurrence to have a traffic jam between Edinburgh, Waverley and Haymarket, which are like 500-600 yards apart, and there's a traffic jam between them because one of the signals in the tunnels is fucking broken again. Which means everything has to go through one tunnel, and it's just ridiculous, and it happens all the time. I think they get a lot of cable thefts as well, though. Not in the centre of the city, obviously, but I think out beyond the west edge of the city they quite often get that. I know it was certainly a big problem when my ex-father-in-law worked for rail track at the time. Right. Let's get this show on the road. Oh look, I like how you can see like the frost on the signal faceplate and stuff like that. Let's try and get a look at that as we go past. You can see like the frost built up on the front of it a wee bit and things. That's a really cool little detail that I've never noticed before. See, it's the little things. That's what makes it. Right, Y style next, or V style, or I really can't do these pronunciations. I should learn, I really should learn. spend enough time playing on this thing. So PZB's okay, so we can just truck on by 40. Zifa coming on again. Just again having to be careful with the power. Going uphill as well, which isn't going to help. Now, helpfully sanding at the front. So the locomotive will eventually run over the bit of track we've sanded, but only after the whole damn train's been over it. You don't need the sand. I mean, this train doesn't weigh enough for that locomotive to truly ever not be able to move it, but for getting up to higher speeds on slopes, it's just taken a little longer, hence we're running a wee bit late, because usually it's not too difficult to stay more or less to time along here. This is a nice busy line, this as well, especially if you have the... I don't even remember what the add-on locals for this were. I think it got a few, didn't it? Or it got the 363 or something like that, the 343, whatever the wee shunter was. But if you've got other add-ons for other routes, it'll use them and detect them as well. So you can end up with one of the busiest routes in the game. It's almost as good in that respect as Peninsula Corridor. I was heaping praise on that a couple of streams ago for the really busy feeling to it sometimes, and this is another one of those lines that sometimes feels like there's actually quite a lot going on. Coming out of the 100 zone, we can accelerate a wee bit, but just remembering that you're approaching the next stop at this point. Milepost 63, well, not milepost because they're not mileposts, but that's the distance in kilometres from I don't know where this, I think this actually starts from Würzburg, counting up. Happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. But you can actually use those. You do start to remember those distance, like the numbers around problem areas of the track especially. There's a temporary speed restriction on the way uphill into Laufa if you're coming in from the west side, for instance, that oh, it caught me out so many times at first because I couldn't remember exactly where it was, and now it's, you know, once it's milepost 74, that's the one. It's 76, 74 is where you got to pay attention. I remember it now. Can't even remember the number, but it's like when you go past it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that number. I think it is like 76, thereabouts. Just be careful not to lock the wheels up. Alright Terry, good to have you here, man. Enjoy your scran. Catch you later on, dude. kind of crawling in a wee bit here. We'll just pick it up a smidge. Crikey, it's gone already. So you do have to sit for a wee while for the load and unload. Again, wish there was a way to cut that short and sacrifice some points maybe in exchange. I don't know. Okay, Heigenbrücken next. So Heigenbrücken's the one at the top of the Spessart ramp, and then we go down a very, very steep hill. It's another train already, one only just left, and we've got another one arriving. Well, it's not arriving, but it will have to sit there for a minute. I think he's under a caution or a red as he comes in. Also have to watch for PZB up ahead as well. It's going to be on at least one, maybe two active magnets. The first one of which is not always on. But where we hit this 120 km/h zone coming up ahead, this is one of the bits you learn after getting it wrong a couple of times. That 120 zone starts where the warning sign for the next 90 zone is also located, and passenger trains will quite often encounter an active magnet there, which you need to acknowledge and get your speed down. And then where the 90 zone actually starts, you're warning flagged for a 70, which you also have to acknowledge. And there may or there may not also be a caution signal somewhere in amongst all that lot. So there's a lot to pay attention to and a lot to get wrong. So there's the signpost telling us get down to 120. But fortunately it is uphill. This helps a lot up here. So where we enter that 120 zone, there's going to be another orange board warning us down to 9. Give your PZB acknowledge a tap as you go over, because it might well be active, this magnet. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I think freight trains maybe don't get it. So there's PZB active. Let's get the brakes on, but we are going uphill. And the signal was also at expect caution, I think, or proceed at reduced speed. I didn't actually get a good look at it, but I acknowledged it as I went past, and I noticed that the 1000 Hz light cycled through again. So if you don't see what the signal actually was, that's one way to do it, is just to acknowledge PZB, and if the 1000 Hz light cycles on and off, then it wasn't clear. and then you can just get yourself down to a safe speed. And then as we enter this 90 zone, you're going to see the little orange board for 70. Now we're already way under any limits. Taking it really easy because of the conditions. But you'll see, as well as yellow signals, even if those signals are green, you still have to acknowledge that orange signpost under any circumstances. So there's a whole wee series of things to get caught by going through there. And we should really reduce to 40 as well, because we didn't have any other specific instruction speed-wise from the signal. So there's nothing in the siding there. But sometimes you come in here and there's a big heavy train sitting in there that's just had its push up the hill. Getting a slightly better traction than I'm expecting. Sometimes with these brakes I'm still... It brakes alright, it's just getting it going that seems to be the thing it doesn't really enjoy. We're a wee bit short, but that's okay because we're still quite comfortably on at the back. In fact, you can open both doors here because they're both platform number 1, I think. Yeah, see platform 1 on either side, so you could open them both up. Oh, in fact, I've opened the wrong side. Oh, it's the fucking outside one it wants you on, isn't it? Okay, so we've lost ourselves a little bit more time there. Why did I think it was the left-hand side one? I think it's because I can see the little tunnel there. I just assumed that's the active platform. So they are both signposted as platform 1, but you have to actually make sure it uses the one the game wants anyway. Not sure if that's new, because I'm sure I've always opened the left doors up here. Maybe that's another platform, I don't know. We are going to lose a little bit more time going down the hill because I'm not going to be running at 120 just in case we do find any signals or anything ahead. You can occasionally come up to signals on the downhill. So keep your speed under 25 leaving because we stopped under 500 Hz PZB. But we've got a clear signal up ahead in the distance. So there we go, 500 Hz has cleared itself. PZB should be completely released now of its own accord. Need to make sure the whole train's clear the siding before we increase the speed. Of quite a lot of fast freight services out and about at this time. I think if I remember rightly, as you go through the day on this route, the balance does change between passenger and freight stuff slightly. I know there's a big window in the middle of the day where you don't get any heavy trains, the big super heavy ones going up the hill, for example. So out the tunnel, it's straight down the hill. Again, this is something you need to watch out for in a freight train because it's very, 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 very long and it's going to take you a while to be clear of the tunnel completely. But it will start picking up speed. This doesn't do it as badly because it's not as heavy, but when you're pulling out a 4-figure sort of weight behind you, you'll pick it up really quickly coming down here, and you can struggle to shed it again. So I'm just going to let it coast now. I'm not going to take it much above about 110, and I'm also going to try and do this with a little bit of air in the brakes already for most of the way, so that if I do need to slow down, I absolutely can. So first application, you might occasionally just need to give it a little squirt more and then let it back out again. If we're a few moments late, so be it. Just having that little, having the brakes in the very first 1A position, just having that little bit of air in the pipe already makes such a huge difference to being able to get your slowdown on. So I am paying attention to the signals because I know from experience they're not always green down here. I think we're okay this time. You know the worst of it's over when you see the track bend away to the left ahead of you. That was actually not too bad. I was maybe overcompensating after doing a similar gradient in an approaching 4,000 ton freight train not long ago, and it all going horribly wrong. So to do it with the clicker, it's set this as you're coming in. That just saves you a moment. And then your click switch for the actual opening is down here. Let's just roll it forward a bit further. think. Is it towards to open? Yep, pull it towards you to open. That's the door's open. And then you can set that switch now if you like. The doors will not actually close until you hit that switch down there again. Just presetting stuff always saves you a little bit of time. Every just moment you can shave off getting underway again is good. Put the brakes back to 1B, which I think is the sort of standard kind of parking setting. So only 2 or 3 more stops to go, I think. Not long now. And I think it might well be time for me to go and get some grub. So just easy with the power, getting underway again. Dry conditions you can get away with just more or less pushing it straight to the stops. Hosbach, I think that's the last stop before Aschaffenburg, if I remember correctly. So there you can see, as soon as I put it up to full power, the blue line, the blue bar on the gauge starts going crazy. That's the banker locomotive parked over there, so obviously nothing doing for him just now. Sometimes see it flying back down the hill on its own when you're going up the way. I've never actually driven the banker service, any of the back down the hill services. I've always only ever driven it as the lead unit. Didn't really think the stream name through properly because we've not actually seen that much of Bavaria and everything about it. Seen quite a lot of railway track immediately in front of the train, but it's not a lot of doing apart from that. Oops. A bit further, that's maybe a bit too short. Okay, so we should have already been underway by now, but we are only about a minute behind, which all things considered, including my bungle with the doors, Heigenbrücken is not too shabby at all. Again, side effect of jumping from train to train to train to train like I've been with this is you don't spend long enough in any one to quite get the feel for it. It takes you a run or two, I think, to just get your eye in with a train to the point where you can confidently run it at high speeds around stations and stuff. I always find my first few runs, if I've not driven it for a while, I'm always overly cautious with everything I do. Because I know even when this first came to TSW2 and they'd put the timetable in, I played quite a bit of it then, and within a couple of attempts I was able to pretty much keep to the timetables and stuff in it. But, I do insist on throwing myself sides, blindsiders, like deciding, oh, let's put bad weather on some of the really extreme gradients and terrain. That'll work. Right, so next up is Aschaffenburg. I was right, that was the last one, and we get to stretch the legs a little bit. Oh, autoracks. No, it's a mixed train. Big double header that, so that's a big heavy train. But because it's a double header, it doesn't need to stop and get a shove up the hill. I think it was a double header, wasn't it? I was kind of looking back at my instruments as it went by, which you kind of have to do when you've got your safeties and stuff turned on. Sometimes you really want to look at the pretty train going by, but you know that there's something coming up that you have to pay attention to. Right, we're going downhill as well, so I should be able to give it a fair amount of juice and it should settle down. There we go. Going to give myself a few kilometres in my pocket, just again because of the conditions. So that's reduce your speed. I'm giving it all the brakes that I dare give it in the conditions. It should be okay. And we need to get down to, we're clear once we're under 85, and we want to get down to 60 by the next main signal, which should be fine. Don't expect anything more complicated than that, because it was a reduced speed, not a caution as such. That's a caution. But in fact the next main is at the end of the platform at Aschaffenburg. That one coming up is a ground signal. So we're already inside the limit for the 500, but we'll just reduce to 40 anyway, before it becomes an issue. We're well inside the 5 minutes that the Germans allow a train to be before they count it as late. Oh, perfect timing, because my belly's starting to rumble. Maybe let it run up a little bit further up. In the game, these trains actually go back from here, but I think in real life that's not how they run. These would be through trains coming from beyond Gemünden and going on beyond Aschaffenburg. But that's just the stretch of the line we got. When they made it, they wanted to make it a back and forth line, so they did, and it's kind of cool. It is kind of fun being able to just sort of play out a whole shift kind of thing. There's usually only about 5 or 10 minutes turnaround time from memory. They're not like really, really long turnarounds, or really long gaps between the trains going. To the point where I remember you do actually have to be able to keep reasonably to time, where you're not going to have time to do a proper turnaround almost. Going to do a shunter stream on this line one of these days as well. It's a lot of fun to be had with those. Great wee fun machines. In fact, let's go and have a wee closer look. Love the noise of them. It's really weird hearing a diesel sort of rumbling away to itself on this line particularly. Okay, so got a gold. I thought I'd already done this one. I didn't realise I didn't have the medal. So there you go. Well, just within the time. Are those the shunters? Yeah, man, they're still all over Germany. Most you find in a lot of countries, because the shunters never go near the main lines as a general rule, or they don't spend a lot of time on the main lines, and they are never ever pulling passengers. That a lot of railways keep really old machines in service to do that job. Yep, there is still a fair sized fleet of those things kicking about. I forget what the class number is now, because we've got 2 shunters on the German railways, but aye, they're still very much in business. And I think once this Grand Tour thing's over, I might well come back and do. I used to do sort of occasionally sort of a focused stream where it would be all about shunting, or it would be all about specifically one type of operation. I'll maybe come back and look at doing something like that, because I don't think I've actually done very much with the more recent add-on German stuff, but that's for much later on down the line. So that's where we're going to end that one. We've crossed Bavaria in that stream, and next time, part 8, we will be joining the Ruhr-Sieg Nord line at Finnentrop, where we'll go west as far as Hagen. We'll switch over at Hagen to an S-Bahn train as far as Wuppertal, which is as far as we can obviously go. Now, you could actually stay on that train in real life and go all the way around as far as I think it's Dortmund they go to, and then you could switch on to the RE11, which we'll take west. Which actually you could use this route in real life to take a scenic route round to link up finally at Cologne, where we will be taking a talent to west towards France, and then we'll finish up with the really fast ones, hopefully. The some similar ones where I grew up, but the ones in the game look a lot older. Oh, are you from Germany, Depth? So you'll know these you'll be fairly familiar with these. I think a lot of German shunters. I mean that. Well, those machines in the background there, those started life as mainline locomotives back in the late 1940s, I think. They were called V100s back then. But quite a lot of early German diesel electrics, quite sensibly actually, put the driver's cab in the middle so that you could see equally well from either end. Norway. Okay, okay. Um, no, it was quite a common concept that rather than put the cabs at either end, like we did in the UK, just put the cabs in the middle with the engines either side. Well, engine one side, all your other equipment on the other side. Sometimes two engines, sort of, with the transmission underneath the cab. Um, but by putting the cab in the middle, I don't know whether the philosophy was that if they're either end of the locomotive, that's just more stuff you need to put in between them to connect them. Whereas if you put them in the centre like that, everything's in one place. There's less plumbing and cross plumbing, and because the controls obviously have to work in both directions. I imagine just purely from an engineering point of view, there's a lot less connectors and pipes and things needed for that configuration. So it's entirely possible that you've seen something very similar. The other shunter, German shunter that we've got, is an almost identical configuration with the engines mounted fore and aft of the central cab. It's actually it's a really really sensible idea. Um, Hell, you don't even have to. Quite often, you don't even need to change seat to change direction. If you're just doing a bit of quick reversing, you can just literally look over your shoulder and see where you're going. Um, so yeah, that'll probably be why you've seen similar ones, because it was a fairly common philosophy, and a lot of shunters on European railways I know are quite old ones. Um, as long as they keep running, why replace them? Passengers are never going to see them, or very rarely going to see them. And they're perfect for what they do, and they can get down places where the more modern units, electric ones especially, can't go. Keeping a wee fleet of diesels on hand is never a bad idea, uh, because sooner or later you're going to need to recover a train from a bit of line where there's no lecky for one reason or another. Um, but yeah. Anyway, that's enough about me talking about German shunting locomotives. That's what I'm going to call it, because my belly is rumbling again. Absolutely starving. Not sure when we'll do the next one, but it won't be very long. So thanks very much for sitting through this with us. I had a great time, as I always do with it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and anybody watching later on as well, thank you. And catch you guys next time for our little tour around the Ruhr Valley area. But till then, I'm off for now. So thanks very much again, and cheerio.